5-degree Celsius decarbonization pathway, and it talks about limiting flights and demand management. And with that, I recognize Mr. Ivey for 5 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank you to the panel. I'm sorry I've been gone for so much of the hearing. We've had parallel hearings and floor action and other things going on. But I did catch a little bit of it, and one of the things I caught was one of my Republican colleagues calling you evil, which I think is astonishing, frankly. As we were trying to prepare for this hearing, and it's the antitrust subcommittee, I mean, one of the things I was trying to figure out was, what's the antitrust issue? And I caught the Attorney General's testimony at the questioning of Mr. Correa, and I think it's very clear there's no antitrust violation here whatsoever. In fact, I don't even think there's a whiff of it, to tell you the truth. So I'm a little surprised that we're focusing the attention on it in this way. And I gotta say too, the point that you all were just covering, I'm sorry my colleague left, because I'm on the subcommittee for this committee that's doing the same thing with respect to the federal government, which is complaining about not getting documents. 90,000 pages is an astonishing amount of document production for a private company. And I don't know how many of my colleagues have been in private practice and worked with a private company in response to subpoenas, but a subpoena of that magnitude, I think you could actually challenge it in court potentially as unduly oppressive. Now, you've got attorneys, y'all do what you follow their guidance and everything, but one of the issues that we haven't ironed out here in the committee with respect to the committee's subpoenas to the administration is they kind of struggle with the communications between their staff and the lawyers who are working on these productions. And I think what I heard from you was that your attorneys had asked for direction to the staff and hadn't really gotten what you needed on that. And we have, I'm saying we, but it really is my Republican colleagues, sent out really overbroad document requests, it's subpoenas in some instances, that I think before you go to contempt, you should take it to court, which is the normal process. I think you'd lose in court. If the subpoena for this one looked like the other ones.
Would the gentleman yield?
I would.
Just from a standpoint of having been down this road, we can't go to court without a vote of the whole House. That's what gives us standing to do it. But we would look forward to doing that.
That'll be up to you all. You know, I think it's, as I said with respect to the administration and the Attorney General in particular, I think it's been a clear abuse of authority to seek contempt for the tape that you're after there. But I don't want to digress. On this particular point, I want to say this. The climate change issue, and I know my Republican colleagues are, many of them anyway, somewhat in denial with respect to the fact that there is climate change and that the science supports that. But I do think that the effects are undeniable. And so some of the things that I've noticed, like for example in Florida, people who own houses along some parts of the coast can no longer get insurance for their houses because of the effects of climate. And insurance companies have to internalize those costs because they have a fiduciary responsibility of their own, as do you, to pay attention to that, because if you don't, you're paying for houses that you can't afford to pay for because the climate changes are having such a big impact and such frequency of impact that you'd lose money. So the insurance companies are starting to walk away. What that's going to turn into is individual homeowners who can't get home insurance then looking to the state for help to, once they get hit by another one of these hurricanes, for support. The states aren't going to want to do it. Mr. DeSantis isn't going to want to do that. So guess what he's going to do? He's going to come to the federal government and ask for a bailout there too. And that's happening in other places. You know, my colleague from North Carolina, I saw that, I think it's on the Outer Banks, they've had, I believe, 6 houses. I believe these are the beachfront mansions that are falling into the ocean because of the rising sea levels. They're going to start having trouble insuring those properties as well. So we can pretend like there's no issue there, but I think it's pretty clear from the effects that that's obviously the case. And from the standpoint of your fiduciary obligations to your investors and to the people who, from your pension, for example, there's no way that you can ignore that responsibly. You have to pay attention to it. You have to incorporate it into the work that you do. And it's shocking to me that you're being beaten up for doing that. And by the way, I think well, I'm running out of time, but thanks again for coming. I apologize for what I think I would call them cheap shots that have been taken at you today. And I appreciate the fact that you've tried to comply. I also appreciate the fact that there's zero evidence of an antitrust violation that I've heard, and the Attorney General pointed that out. And I encourage you to keep up the work that you're doing, because I think it's not only in your pensioners' best interest and your investors' best interest, but I think it's in the country's best interest. And with that, I yield back.
Recognize the chairman of the